Hello students. Now I'll be dealing with the seventh session of Unit 2, that is about food spoilage and quality deterioration, contamination sources and types of cereals and cereal products. In the previous class we just discussed about the extrinsic and intrinsic factors which influences the growth and destruction of the microorganisms. Now we'll discuss about the food spoilage in cereal and cereal products. What are the contaminating sources and types of spoilage? Before that, we'll just know about the meaning of food spoilage. What is meant by food spoilage? Food spoilage, it is a damage or injury to food rendering in unsuitable for human consumption. That is called as food spoilage. Food must be considered as spoiled if it is contaminated with pathogenic microorganisms or various poisonous agents such as pesticides and heavy materials, etc. On the basis of ease of spoilage, foods can be placed in three groups, mainly stable or non-perishable foods, semi-perishable foods, and perishable foods. Stable or non-perishable foods, they are usually the cereals and pulses. Semi-perishable foods, these are usually some kind of vegetables like potato, onion, garlic, so that we can keep it in room temperature for 15 days and all. Whereas non-perishable foods like cereal, grains and pulses, we can keep it for years together. Whereas perishable foods, we can't keep it for 1 or 2 days because they will spoil very early or very soon they will spoil. Okay, now we'll discuss about the spoilage of cereals and their products. About contamination, these contamination, the exterior of harvested grains, they retain some of the natural flora they had while growing, plus contamination from soil, insects, and other sources. Freshly harvested grains contain few thousands to million of bacteria per gram and mold spores. The milling processes, especially bleaching, reduces number of organisms, but there is then possibility of contamination during other procedures such as blending and conditioning. In continuation with this, we can also discuss about spoilage in cereal grains and meals. Cereal grains and meals, ordinarily they are not processed to reduce their natural flora of microorganisms. They are likely to contain molds, yeast and bacteria which are ready to grow if enough moisture is added in addition to starch, which is unavailable to many organisms. These grains contain some sugar and available nitrogen compounds, minerals, and accessory growth substances, and the amylases will release more sugar and proteases will yield more available nitrogenous foods if the grains are moistened. A little added moisture will result in the growth of molds at the surface of the foods. A major factor which is involved in the spoilage of stored grains is by the molds, which includes the microbial content, moisture level above 12 to 13%, physical damage, and the temperature. For example, cereal grains, if usually they contain the moisture level less than 13%, that time they won't get spoiled so early or so easily. If these cereal grains they are moistened a little bit, or if its moisture level increases just by 14%, 15% also, they will get spoiled. Most common mold species involved in the spoilage of cereal grains are usually the Aspergillus, Penicillium, Mucor, Rhizopus, and Fusarium. About the spoilage of flour, here when we talk about the spoilage of flour, a moisture content of flour is also less than 13%, and it has been reported to prevent the growth of all microorganisms. And it was claimed that more than 13% of the moisture they will permit the good mold growth, and over 17% there is a growth of both mold and bacteria. Because of the variations in microbial content of different lots of flour, the type of spoilage in flour paste is difficult to predict. If acid forming bacteria are present, and acid fermentation begins, followed by alcoholic fermentation by yeasts if they are there, and then acetic acid by Astrobacter species. It is a characteristics of most flour paste to develop an odor of acetic acid and ester. That is why when we make a dough of any kind of flour, cereal flour, and if we keep it for 8 hours in a room temperature, we if we smell that some particular smell will uh, come, we can smell that particular smell. That is some acidic smell. It may be because of the formation of acetic acid and esters. Okay, when we talk about the spoilage of bread, the fermentation taking place in the doughs will be noted that some changes which are caused by the microorganisms are desirable, and even it is much necessary in making certain kinds of bread. The acid fermentation by lactics and coliform bacteria is normal in the preparation of bread. If too much time is permitted, with the result that the dough and bread made from it may be sour. If the fermentation is more, or if the bread dough is kept for more time for the fermentation, then that bread will be sour in taste. If the excessive growth of proteolactic bacteria also may destroy the gas holding capacity, and it produces the sticky dough. Molds are the most common and hence the most important cause of spoilage of bread and bakery products. And also we can see the bread molds. The chief molds which involved in the spoilage of bread are so called as bread molds. They causes different kinds of spoilages like ropiness, red bread, and chalky bread. What is this ropiness or rope formation in the bread? Ropiness of bread is fairly common in home baked bread, especially during hot weather. Ropiness is caused by mucoid variant of Bacillus subtilis or Bacillus licheniformis. The ropey condition apparently is the result of capsulation of the bacillus together with the hydrolysis of the flour proteins by proteinases of the organisms and of starchy by amylase to give sugars that encourage rope formation. The area of ropiness is yellow to brown in color, and it is soft and sticky to touch. In one stage, the slimy material can be drawn out into long threads. When the bread is broken and pulled apart, first the odor is evident, then we find discoloration, and finally softening of the crumb with stickiness and the stringiness. Then what is this red bread? The red color results from the growth of pigment bacteria, which is pink in color, and usually Serratia mercensis, an organism that often is brilliantly red on the starchy foods. A red or bloody bread is striking in appearance, but it is rare in occurrence. What about chalky bread? Chalky bread is so named because of white chalk-like spots seen on the bread. The defect has been blamed on the growth of yeast-like fungi, And also we find spoilage in other cereal products such as cakes and bakery products. Molds are the chief cause of the microbial spoilage of cakes and other baker products. Here, the microbiology of these products becomes more complicated when they are topped with the frostings for fruits or filled with the custards, imitation creams, or sauces. Usually, toppings or frostings are more prone to microbial spoilage than in the actual baked portion. Even in the pasta and macaroni and tapioca, we find some spoilage. That is, egg-based pastas usually containing flour, water, and eggs. Pasta is delivered and stored dry. Therefore, there are seldom reports of spoilage in these products. And macaroni usually they contain flour, water, and other nutrients. But actually, during the drying of macaroni, on paper or on the flour or on the sticks, that time if any microbes are uh, sit on the, or if that macaroni is contaminated with the microbes, they found responsible for the purple streaks at contact points with the paper or wherever it was dried. Tapioca prepared from the root starch of cassava will spoil if it is moistened. About breakfast cereals and other cereal snacks, there are three basic breakfast cereals manufacturing processes, and these products are flaked, puffed, or extruded. In the initial steps of manufacturing of these products, like flake means flake rice, puffed rice, like that. So the initial steps of manufacturing of these products, high level of moisture is required. After that, whereas the finished state, they usually represent the products with a less number of microbes. But if at all these finished products, they are moistened even little bit also, they will spoil very soon. About prepared doughs, a large number of products available at retail are essentially prepared, refrigerated, or frozen bakery product doughs. These convenience items may contain yeast or lactic acid bacteria inoculum. The level of contamination and the subsequent microbial quality would be direct result of the quality of ingredients used and the sanitary practices employed during their manufacture. Microbial numbers may increase during the refrigerated storage until the product receives its final heat treatment at the consumer level. And here we can see some images of the spoilage. Here cottony growth, and this is the ropiness, this is the red bread, and spoilage of molds here we can see. So to summarize, here a damage or injury to food rendering in unsuitable for human consumption is called as food spoilage. In cereal grains, especially in cereal products also, a little added moisture will result in the growth of molds at the surfaces. And this is the reference which I have used for this. Thank you.